The one thing I would advise is just get up and go do something.
Yeah, so when you feel that being in that dark place, that down place, that use that almost as a trigger to say, I got to go now before I get sucked in deeper, right?
Because it'll keep going, right?
Yeah.
Those will compound. It's like one of those things. If you go take a walk, well, maybe that might turn into a workout. You do a workout, it might be an extra workout. You might start feeling good. You're executing at work better. Like it just pulls you out of that hole.
Yeah.
And it's tough, man. You get in that hole, it's tough to get out of it. But I will say, and this has been something I've learned, things will get better. It's not like that forever. So I want to promise you, your listeners, stay moving forward. Keep going. Keep getting up. Keep executing. Things will get better.
That's right.
Always. They might seem dark right now. It might seem gray. You might seem withdrawn, but it will get better.
I'm in the big leagues. Told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston. Ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog. Like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding the road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it. Peeling off like the whip orange.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Do Good Movement. Our purpose here is to make a positive impact in our society through real-life education. The movement comes into play when you share the content to help other people do good just like you. I'm excited about today. For a number of reasons, and you're going to learn that in just a little bit. But we do have a guest on the show, Matt Hunters. What's going on, man?
Not much, Dylan. Thanks for having me in today, man. Appreciate it. Look forward to our conversation today, and just excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. What we're going to talk about, as I was saying a second, I'm very excited to talk about. I'm excited to learn from you. And just on behalf of the guests and myself, I appreciate you being open to jump in and talk about this, because I think a lot of people are facing it that might be in denial about facing it or not even know that they're facing the situation we're going to talk about. And so what we're going to talk about today is the battle of depression, and really what is depression, how to fix it, and different things like that. And Matt, I was reading up on your story, and you talked about in your life, like you're at a great point of life. Business was good, you're doing good at work. You're married, you have a family, right? So everybody from the outside would look at your life as a successful life. But on the inside, you didn't feel that way, right?
Correct.
Can you walk me through, I want to talk about where you were, where your head was, and I'm going to ask you questions on how did you identify that and some of the steps that you've taken to move forward from there.
Sure, Dylan. Hey, thanks for the intro there. And again, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to come in and share about this today. I know it's a very sensitive topic. It's a very vulnerable topic for sure. Many individuals, especially for us as men, right?
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to start here because I think it's important to set the stage as we get into this conversation to talk a little bit about my story as it 100%. Progressed and what got me to that point. And then from there, I'm hoping we can share with your audience about what's happened since then and the ways that I've helped to find some improvement and to kind of come to terms with this issue that I've dealt with. So
that'd be amazing.
Again, guys, my name is Matt Hunter. I'm 44 years old. I've grown up here locally in Southern California, and this is something I've battled with for many years. And it all started in my late 20s. I was very successful in my business, in my job. I was promoting very well through the corporation I was working for. I was in sales, and then was always doing well. Was promoted into some leadership roles, and I was excited to come home and share this with my wife, what was going on, and we were excited. We just had our first son. He was, at this time, a few years old, and our second child was on the way.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure that was starting to surmount and that was building up on me, right? Late 20s.
For sure.
It was in the time of 06, 07. There was a lot going on in real estate then, a lot of pressures to buy a house and have this home to provide for my family.
Yep.
And I wanted to give my wife and the kids the opportunity to have my wife stay at home and raise them. So we had to make a lot of decisions that were tough, right?
Yeah.
So, we found ourselves in a position where we, bought a home. We were probably a little far over our heads in that, like many people at the time were.
Right.
And so it was a financial pressure that I was feeling, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of financial pressure that was coming along. And, I'm discovering this in my late 20s of what was going on. I just noticed I found myself disconnecting from a lot of people, family, friends. I found myself not wanting to go do things. And I found myself having this animosity that was starting to build up. And I didn't know why. And I felt it actually directed to my wife for whatever reason.
Wow.
And, you know, and there came a time, I remember I physically wrote a letter down, and I was blaming her for all these problems and all these issues that were coming up in my life the way I felt. And I held on to it for a while. And I thought, well, let me write this out. But then one night I finally pulled it aside and said, I want to read you this. And I just break down in tears in this thing as I'm reading this to her. And I'm reading it, and I'm realizing as I'm reading this, it was a way for me to kind of get this out.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming her for it. The whole time it was never her problem. But I was, you know, pushing a lot of my issues onto her.
Yeah.
Right? Directing it onto her for whatever reason. I think maybe it was just the pressure, the feeling of appreciation. Because meanwhile, you know, I was trying to provide for her and the family to stay home, and she was busy with the kids. And I felt like, hey, where's my role in all this, right?
100%.
And so I found myself having a tough time to deal with that. And I remember she looked at me after in the conversation. She said, "Matt, you know, I think you're battling a depression issue." And it just hit me just like that. And I became very scared right away.
You're probably trying to figure out what's going on too, right?
I'm trying to figure out what's going on for sure. And I was scared too. And I'm having this emotional moment right now, like with my wife, and I'm supposed to be this big, strong leader of the house and telling her all about it. And so we had a moment there. I remember where we were at. I still remember where we were at. We were in the living room of the house that we'd owned, and we were so excited to have this house. And
Yeah.
and we just had this moment for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we both just cried, and there was a lot of emotion there, and we
Yeah,
didn't
it's
know
good,
what
man.
it was or why. And it was at night, and then we kind of summed it all up, and we ended up going to bed, right? So we went to bed, and you know, from the days after was this processing moment. We were trying to figure this out, what's going on. And
Yeah.
so we came back to it and talked about
real
it.
quick, what I think that's a big thing that you
Mm-hmm.
just talked about is like you finally like just took it off your chest and opened up. Whether it's a right or wrong thing to do with your significant other and that pressure, but just from bottling that in, because sometimes people bottle it up so
Mm-hmm.
much and then they go in a different direction and go further, you know, closer to that deep end, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that trigger point? Do you remember that on like, hey, tonight's the night, like I need to have a conversation?
I don't recall the exact trigger point, but there was something there that like I just felt the moment was right. Like I was like, okay, I just need to let her have this. Like I need to take this off my shoulders
Yeah.
and just put it on hers, right? And
Yeah.
that was totally not the right thing to do. I know that now, especially
Yeah.
in hindsight. But there was something there going on that just triggered me to do that and take that step. And that just let it out. Like I just
Yeah.
let it all out. I remember she's like and I would stutter my words. I couldn't even get it out. She's like, no, just keep going. Keep talking.
Maybe it's because you thought she could help you, or you trusted her with the process on what's going to go on.
Yeah, a little story about my wife and I. She's my high school sweetheart. We've been
Oh,
married.
that's amazing.
We've been married for over 21 years now, right? So she's the person I had the most confidence and trust in. So I
Yeah.
think that obviously she was the person I wanted to share this with first.
Yeah.
I think others, honestly, around me, I think they could see what was going on, but nobody wanted to say anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't angry. I wasn't mean, but I was just withdrawn somewhat. You know, I'd hide in sweatshirts and clothes and just a little withdrawn, show up for work, do my thing, but come home, just wouldn't want to go do a bunch of stuff, which isn't like me.
Yeah.
'Cause before that, I was always go-getter, eager, let's get out and go.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
It's amazing. So a couple nights go by, and then it sounds like both of you didn't know what to do with the information from there. Then you regroup. What happened there?
Yeah, we regrouped, and you know, I even said, listen, I said, I think I should go see somebody and talk to somebody about this. And at this part, I didn't know what that even looks like. Like, who do you go talk to, right? So
Yeah.
I called, you know, our medical provider to start there. Like, hey, I this is something that's come up. I need to see my doctor. And they met with my family doctor, and they said they want to prescribe me to go or give me the referral to go speak to somebody. And I ended up getting to speak to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I didn't know the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. I do now, but a
Yeah.
psychiatrist will prescribe you a medication to help, right? They'll still listen to you and they talk it out, but they're taking more of the prescriptive route rather
Right.
than psychologists take more of a talking, coping, working it out. So I was going down the direction of a psychiatrist.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, what did the doctor say? Like when you met with
Yes,
the doctor and you
yeah.
talked it out? Because I think there might be people listening right now and they're like, hey, you know, my parents have this or my friend has this, and they say, hey, just go to the doctor and they're going to prescribe you something.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point, and that's something I really want to share too. Is so I go meet with the psychiatrist, and they ask questions, and I share all my story and what's going on, and he diagnosed me with moderate depression. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, you're not mildly, you're not like, severely depressed. You're somewhere in the middle. And like, as I was describing this, I said, that's kind of how I felt too. I felt like I could still operate. I just felt like I wasn't operating at my prime level, right? I just felt off. And he tells me, or he asked me, he said, well, what makes you feel the best? Like, when do you feel the best? I said, I feel the best immediately after a workout. He said, okay, awesome. Well, I can help you with that. And he says, well, I can provide you, a prescription for that's going to help you. And it's going to help you to get into your daily routine, and you're going to feel better. You might find a boost in energy. So all this is sounding really good to me. And he prescribed me Wellbutrin at the time. And I didn't know much about it. Said, sure, I'll try it. And I tried it, and it had some good effects.
Yeah.
It also had some side effects too, like any medication.
Right.
Right. So I took it consistently for a while, and I noticed some positive pieces, but also some paranoia, some other things that were affecting me.
Yeah.
Right. Now everybody's story is a little different, but for me, I found like, okay, I don't know if I want to go this direction. I was starting to learn more about the process.
Right.
Okay, what is prescribing the prescription? What does that look like? What's the long-term effect? Like, what are some other things that I can do out there to help myself and with what I was battling?
Yeah, that's
Right?
awesome that you're open-minded like this.
Yeah. So I ended up finding. Well, I go back and say, well, what made me feel the best? It's working out, right?
Yeah.
So this has been going on for a few years. So fast forward, it's like the late 20s, now I'm like mid 30s. I've kind of been going through this process, doing the prescriptions, doing this, just navigating through life, still not feeling great, but just enough to kind of get through.
Yeah.
And I found CrossFit, right? So I jumped into CrossFit, and it provided me a community that I just loved. I loved working out. I loved being around people. I found a lot of social, opportunities, meeting people, and it was great. Loved being there. So that was what the trigger to help pull me out that I found was, okay, there's a connection here with, exercise and working out. So that started me on that process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I started moving away a little bit from prescription type of opportunity and to kind of exploring what are some natural things I can do to help myself, right? And that started me down this whole road.
That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Thank you.
So what is depression? Like how, like if I'm listening right now, how do I know if I have it? Is it I'm just down, I'm not excited, I'm not happy? Is that because is it something that is it run in your DNA, or can you just be born with it and like, hey man, I don't feel the best, I don't have the best outlook on life, different things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, because that was the other thing. Like, I think even prior to this, when I'd hear someone's depressed, I'd be like, well, they're just sad, or they're just this, or they just want to sit around and cry. Well, that's not really what it is. Like, what I describe it as, it's a very gray moment. Like, you feel everything, you just feel numb to certain things. Like, you see it, you just don't get overly excited, you don't feel overly down, you're just like not engaged. It feels like you're outside of the situation, just watching things unfold. Now, that was my experience. Now, I'm sure everybody has somewhat of a different experience, but to me, I found what the triggers I found, what I found was withdrawn from people.
Yeah.
Like, just not wanting to be around people, unengaged. I found it very exhaustive to go do things, just tired, getting off the couch, didn't have the energy, find myself as a couch potato, watching TV, doing stuff that wasn't productive.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was always productive. I was a go-getter. I always wanted to do different work. I was starting up new businesses, trying to find ways to grow, right?
Right.
So there was that point where I'm like, hey, this is something that's off. So those are some of the things that I found that to me was my depressive episode. But from what I understand, people find it as sadness, anger.
Yeah.
They could be unhappy, fatigue. Those are some signs.
Yeah.
Right?
And then like the trigger point to go do something. So like just through like experience myself, I'll chat about in a little bit, is like when you're at your low, it's super hard to like take action on, there's things out there to help, right? So like exercise is like when you wake up and you don't feel like getting out of bed, you don't feel like talking to anybody, you feel like crap, right? Mm-hmm. And then to go push yourself past that, to go take action on the things that were going to help you like feel better. What did you have to like say to yourself in your head on like, hey Matt, like we just got to go, man? Because I think there are people that know, hey, I have some form of depression, but they're not willing to go forward and take that action because it's uncomfortable, or they're just at that low of a low. What do you do to help get you like up and like take that first step?
Right. And those are tough.
Yeah.
That was tough for me early on. because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to help myself.
Yeah.
You know, and even my wife wanted to help me. People wanted to help me, but they couldn't fix me. Like, they couldn't help me. I had to help myself. So I think that's a great point, is like, you've got to be willing and wanting to help yourself. And there are some tough decisions, right? But some of them could be very simple. Some of it could just be getting up and doing something. Just taking a walk. Maybe it's engagement in exercise or activity, or maybe it's to read. Find something that makes you feel good. And I say this, find whatever that makes you feel good and just do more of that. Make that a regular occurrence in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's working out, or, you know, going out and doing something special, or maybe it's a sports activity, you know, those types of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are some ways that I
good.
found, but it is difficult to get yourself off that couch.
For sure.
I remember, Dylan, there was one instance where we were going to go hang out with some friends and family. And I still remember this. And my wife, the kids were all packed. And I said, I'm not going. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going. And she says, why? I said, babe, I just don't feel good. Like, I feel like I'd be a major bummer to be around. And I totally withdrew at that moment. She didn't know how to cope with it, nor did I. Like, I was still new at that point, right? And I found myself on that couch.
Yeah.
And I know there's probably a lot of individuals out there, even listeners, they find themselves there. You know, and it's difficult. But the one thing I would advise is just get up and go do something.
Yeah, so when you feel that certain way, you feel that being in that dark place, that down place, that use that almost as a trigger to say, I got to go now before I get sucked in deeper,
Correct,
right?
because it'll keep going, right?
Yeah.
And anything like that continues to compound, just like other compounding efforts. Like, if you find yourself to go do something, to get active, those will compound. It's like one of those things. You go take a walk, well, maybe that might turn into a workout. You do a workout, it might be an extra workout. You might start feeling good. You're executing at work better. Like, it just pulls you out of that hole.
Yeah.
And it's tough, man. You get in that hole, it's tough to get out of it. But I will say, and this has been something I've learned, things will get better. It's not like that forever. So I want to promise you, your listeners, like, don't have that fear. Don't have that doubt. Remind yourself of this. Stay moving forward. Keep going. Keep getting up. Keep executing. Keep going. Things will get better.
That's right.
Always. They might seem dark right now. It might seem gray. You might seem withdrawn, but it will get better. And I've been in some of those times, right, where I'm driving to work, and I just, like, my mind's not there, but I tell myself, it will be better. Things will be better.
And probably not to expect like an immediate change, right? Like, it's going to, you're at a spot where you're gonna have to go through a process to start making this correction and how you feel and bringing these new behaviors in. Like, that does take time, but I think what you said is super important to understand and just say, I know I'm here, but you have to have a vision and have hope that you know there is a cure for it. And if you stay true to that, you are going to live a better life versus saying, hey, where I'm at right now is where I'm always going to be. Like, it sounds like you knew that I feel off, something's off, and I know life doesn't have to be this way. And how I find help, however that is, if it's through the activities and different things like that, if you do those things and stay committed to that, that will then allow you to go live the better life. So that's probably what helped to get you off of the couch and just say, hey, I don't want to be this person because I know I could be this person because I've seen it in myself in the past, right?
Right. And we want to feel good. That's just natural. That's just human nature. Like, you want to feel good. We were designed to feel good. We were designed to be happy. We were designed to help others, right? And I think that's where we get the most fulfillment, you know? So, like, getting up and getting going, finding those things that make you feel better. But I think it'd be interesting, Dylan, is that, like, I want to share a little bit too, just the process that we took, right, of moving forward.
Yeah,
and some
I'd love
things
to hear
that
it.
I've done over time, right? Because it's been a journey. You know, it was around 28, 29 when I found out what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm 44 now.
It's still a journey. I'm sure
It's
you
still
have
a
to
journey.
put work in
Dylan,
every day to feel
look,
good.
Think there are times when it's tough. You know,
Yeah.
you feel that grayness coming in, and I remind myself, okay, I got to take action. I got to take inventory on certain things. I got to remind myself of certain things that I have in my life, which are extremely positive. You know what I mean? And take the inventory of that and find the goodness as well. But also, to take that and then apply it to the things that make me feel good, right? But the one thing that I wrote about this a little bit in a blog that I have, and as we got to produce that, I remember when I was getting ready to roll that out, you know, one of our branding coaches told me, are you sure you want to share this? And I said, yeah. She's like, hey, this is very vulnerable. And I said, well, that's great. Because I want to be vulnerable right now because that's going to help me.
100%.
So one of my first points of advice to somebody is, first, identify that you have that, like you have a problem, right? Just admit, hey, I'm dealing with something.
That's
I
so
don't
good.
I don't know what I want to call it. If we want to call it depression, whatever it is, find out, talk to somebody, right?
Yep.
Research that and figure out what that is. That's the first step.
Because
right?
by saying that, now you're going to be open and receptive to
Yes.
the information that you grab from there, right?
Correct. Because if you don't know there's a problem, how are you going to fix it?
Or if you don't accept that there's a problem.
Yep. If you don't accept there's a problem, what are you going to do about
It's
it?
just like in business too, right? Something's going wrong in a department or with somebody at work, and if you just, it's okay, it's going to exist, and that hole's going to get bigger. But when you say, hey, man, we're facing a situation right here,
Right.
now it's identified. It's like metrics, KPIs. We're able to identify the data's off, something's wrong, and now everybody could go in on how do we fix it.
Correct. So now it's been identified. Okay, now
Yeah.
we have a problem. Now we're going to take action to fix it, right? And there's many different avenues individuals can take. And we talked about those a little bit earlier, but the next step is to talk to somebody. That'd be my greatest advice. Speak to somebody. If you want to start with a friend, a family member, maybe talk to somebody that you know has battled this before, has been through it, right? Or see somebody with some professional help.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
That would be my second step.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
What would be the third step? What is your, I guess, and let's add this in there, is like the doctor approach, right? Is that, and again, everybody has to make their own decisions here, but just getting your perspective on it, like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in hindsight, listen, like the avenue I took was for a good reason.
Yep.
You know, to go back and do it again, like knowing what I know now, I'd have probably started with a psychologist.
Okay.
Because I found for me, talking through things is very beneficial. So I needed to like talk this out. I needed to understand it, you know, hear out what's going on, get some professional help, talk about my issues, talk about what I'm doing to, you know, with these issues and where I'm projecting these to, right, to understand what is going on. So that'd be my second point of advice is to speak to somebody professionally.
Yeah.
Right? So make the determination you're going to go with somebody that can prescribe you some type of medication for it, or maybe speak to somebody that can help you talk through that.
Right.
Right? And then the next step is to find out, well, what makes you feel good? Right? And keep doing more of that.
Yeah, and it has to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, for me, I could say buying new stuff makes me feel good, right? Like anybody else.
Yes, yeah.
It's that little, like, quick shot of injection, and then the next day, you're like, I'm back in the same spot.
Yeah.
So, like, sustain it. Like, Matt's talking about, like, what can make you feel good for ever, right? Like, what's something you can repeat every single day and you're feeling good?
Right. Exactly.
And so, like, I always tell people, like, identify if it's for a guy like me, right? If it's that thing I bought, what about that thing made me feel good? Mm-hmm. And it was something new. It was really the chase of getting the deal,
chase.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so, like, okay, and so what the chase is a challenge. So I like to be challenged. So for me to feel good, I need to have something to challenge me every day. And that challenge could be as small as, no matter how long my day is, how busy my day is, I'm going to challenge myself to push even further. When I get home, I'm going to do an activity with my family.
Yeah.
Just something that's going to challenge me and push me. For me, that's what helps me.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story, and this is something I told you earlier, but I want to share it with your audience here.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So this blog I released a few months back, you know, a friend of ours, his wife read it and sent it to her husband. And I didn't know this individual was battling with something, and I see my phone ring. Well, it was him. And I said, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, bro, I just want to tell you thank you for sharing your story. It found me in a moment where I needed to hear this. Like, I needed help. And he said, I don't know what I'm dealing with right now, but I'm in a funk. That's what he said. I'm in a funk right now. And that could be what we call it, guys. Like, some of us macho guys out there, we don't want to admit this, right? We want to, it's just a funk. You know, I'm just not feeling good.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. But the first thing is just kind of find out, okay, this is the issue. I'm dealing with something.
Yeah, there's something.
And so right when I got his text, he texted me, and I was just in the middle of an appointment. I was so excited to call him because I wanted to, like, what's going on, dude? Like, how are you feeling? So he described it for me, and I'm like walking him through this thing, and I'm like, man, like, I love the opportunity to share with him what's going on with me. But the interesting for me is if I would have never shared that, I would have never had the opportunity to help him. So fast forward, he was battling with some knee issues and doing some stuff, so he couldn't work out. He was struggling. Like, he was just continuing to spiral, right? Alcohol, found himself drinking. And so I was going through, I'm like, well, bro, that's like one of the worst things you can do. I know we find ourselves doing that, but that's going to really push you down further.
Yeah.
Like, let's figure that out right now. So I said, well, how about your diet and nutrition? And, he said, I'm off with that. So I kind of left him with some thoughts and some words, but I kept checking back with him like a day after day, week after week. He's like, dude, I'm still feeling bad. Like I'm in a funk. I'm not feeling good. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's like 3 weeks later, I hadn't checked back with him. He's like, dude, I'm feeling great. I'm on 75 hard. I'm doing this. I'm no drinking. And he's just on fire. He called me and messaged me right in the middle of a moment where I found myself on the couch struggling.
Oh, this is good.
And he inspired me to get up, get my butt on the Peloton, and go burn it up for like 45 minutes. And I got off there, and I was kind of going down that road, and immediately just pulled right back up, and I was feeling great again. So the one thing, like even for us guys, like just being able to help each other and just encourage each other, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And where he made the first step is to admit to me, I have a problem. Because how would that feel? Like, hey, my wife sent me your story, and she wanted me to read it, and he reads it and then takes a step.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Of taking action.
You got to be open. Us as people, I talk about this on the show all the time around all different things, right? Today's topic's just on depression, but guys, we're not perfect by any means. And as soon as you could understand that and say, I need to develop myself and I need to work on myself, like you could change your life to do anything you want to do, feel any way you want to feel, accomplish anything you want to accomplish. But like that step you're talking about right there, and just saying like, hey, even if it wasn't my idea, even if somebody sent this to me from somebody's wife, right? And it's just like whatever, the person didn't communicate it the right way or share it the right way to, if you could just be open enough to understand that if somebody tells you something that's super direct, if they share something to you that's going to offend you, understand that person's sharing that information because they care about you and they love you, and they just don't know how to get it across. And if we could, as people, understand that on the content we come across or that link that somebody forwards us on Instagram, and just know that's their way of communicating and saying I love you, and just take that information and be like, hey, there's something going on, I should do something about this, is a massive step.
Yeah, and one of the neat things for me, having experienced this now, and I still battle this, I still go through it, but I have a good understanding of it.
Yeah.
Like I can see it. Like I can see it now on others, with men especially, but sometimes even with women. Like you just kind of know, like you can see it. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with it. Like we all have our own quirks, right? We have our own issues. Everybody has something.
That's right.
We just have a little bit of different something.
Yeah.
But is to be able to help somebody and just encourage them. Because look, guys, we all need encouragement, right?
Yep.
We all need encouragement and appreciation. We were designed for that. And it's super important to tell people that, encourage them, show them appreciation, right? Because that's going to help them in some moment of their life as well.
For sure.
But the cool thing is I've been following your story for a while and just seeing your activity level in nutrition, right? And I think there's a huge impact right now with nutrition and this topic specifically.
Oh, 100%.
And I've been talking about that a lot over the last year or two, and I found myself in that position talking about nutrition and health and eating correctly.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to make sure your audience understands and also can apply as well. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Processed foods, refined carbs, and also, not saying that's bad to enjoy once in a while, but to me,
you can't live on it.
No, to me, sugar was one of the worst things because I would have that spike. Like it would feel good, and then boom, it was almost like alcohol was just sugar. That was for me.
Yeah.
It affects many people in different ways, but I think nutrition is super key topic.
100%.
That like people are looking for ways to get some help or to fix. I think that's one area I'd focus on as well.
That's key. And so like for you guys listening, what Matt's talking about nutrition. So like I have these off-road cars and they have these race engines in them. And these engines take a special type of fuel. And I look at it as like the food for the engine. Like our body our body's an engine as well, right? And our body, the fuel for our body is what we put in it, the water, the food, those different things. Well, if I don't put this certain type of octane fuel in my race engine, the engine runs like crap. It'll turn on, it will run, it will be there. The power is a lot less. The performance is a lot less. And the same thing with our bodies. If we're putting the wrong nutrition, the wrong drinks in our body, the wrong food in our body's going to run like crap. And same with our mind. The mind controls the body, and your mind, when it starts hitting wrong, to like counter correct that is very hard because you're in this spot and you're starting to look at all these other things when it could be the nutrition or the alcohol. And that's what I wanted to touch on is like, what are the things you learn to not do? So we talked about like what to add in. You're talking about like cutting out the processed foods, cutting out the sugars, which is good, doing the exercise, which gets your endorphins going. What are some of the things that you're like, hey, I learned to not do a couple of these things because that was causing some depression.
Right. So one of the things I've learned to not do is to not let myself withdraw. Like
Yeah.
stay engaged, right?
Yeah.
Stay engaged, and that's a big tip. But I think that the area of discussion right here too is around alcohol.
Yep.
That's a very, very important topic for us in general.
Yeah.
Right. Do I still drink? Yes.
Yep.
Now I have a different relationship with it. I understand what it's going to do to me after the fact. So I have to be careful on how much I intake and how often, there'll be some intake,
Yeah.
right? And then what situations it is. Because, when you're in the moment, the social moment, you feel great.
Yeah.
You feel awesome, right? And even shortly after the moment, it kind of brings you down and you feel normal. But then it's like the day or two after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your dopamine is changed up. The way you feel is changed up. Mentally, you're not in the right framework.
And that's science too. Like this is
Correct.
real. What you're talking about is real,
Yes.
actual, factual data.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So I still engage a little bit with alcohol at
Yeah,
times.
same here.
I just have a different perspective of it now, and I have a different relationship, knowing that I might pay for this a little bit, but I know I have to make up for it somewhere else, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm going to do this, okay, it's going to cost me time somewhere else because I'm going to have to be extra aggressive on my Peloton rides, or I'm going to have to do an extra activity here or something to kind of reverse some of that
Yeah.
impact. And it's not because of any type of physical appearance, but I know what it's going to do in my mental space.
That's so good. I'm gonna tell a story I haven't shared with anybody yet. So back when I was like 20, I was 2 years into getting my business going, and same thing. Like life was like it was good, starting to make a little bit of money. Had this like massive vision, like something to work on every day. Got a cool spot with some of my buddies, living at the beach, and kind of living a little bit of the bachelor life. And back then, I worked out, not every single day, but pretty consistently, and consumed alcohol. Like we partied, right? And going through these times, I didn't feel the best. But on top of that, I was taking testosterone, so I was on a steroid because I was big into my looks and like I was just that guy, right? And when you do steroids, you could do it in cycles, or it becomes super bad for you. And doing steroids with alcohol is also super bad for you. So they're like 3-month cycles. So this one time I got off of doing it. I did it like 3 different cycles of like steroids from I think 20 to like 22. So it's been a long time since. But when I got off of it one time, I remember waking up and I just like cold turkey got off of it, and I just didn't want to get out of bed.
You're going to crash.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, I think this is depression, right? And it runs in my family, and I don't know if depression come from DNA or whatever, but the parts of my family have depression, like are facing this today. And I'm like, I know I've been like, I have to like push myself to get myself going so I could have it too, but I've been in denial of like, titling it, I have this, I have that. I'm like, no, I'm just a badass. I got to put in the work, and that's just the way life is. So I remember I was just for days like in bed, like not wanting to go anything, and just in a very, very dark place. And like I finally, there's 2 people I talked to. One was a mentor of mine who has faced some of this himself, and he said, Dylan, get up right now and go straight to the gym and run as fast as you could fucking run. And when you feel like quitting, keep going, and then like stop drinking. And then on my mom, she's like, get to the doctors. And so get to the doctors, they're going to prescribe some stuff. And I was nervous of, I don't know if somebody like coached me on it, but like taking a prescription is like, that's going to be the crutch for the rest of your life, And so I didn't do that, started going to the gym, started exercising. That's when I started noticing and started like documenting on the things that made me feel good. And it's funny as you're talking, it's the same thing. The exercise, limiting alcohol, different things like that. And so that's when I really got addicted to like fitness. And I was telling my buddy the other day, and like a lot of people see me as this like happy, positive guy. And I'm like, guys, naturally, that's not me. Like this person you see as Dylan, like I got to work for that shit. I'm usually just, want to be lazy, not doing anything, but I have understood what makes me feel good. And I practice that religiously every day. Because like people, I've been working out for over 4 years straight, right? And some people will like write me like, hey, you're too much, whatever, you're going to injure yourself. And as you're talking about, it's not the looks. Like for me to be a performer, I have to exercise. And this whole alcohol thing, I've been learning about it recently too, because like I just with how busy I'm in with business and I need to be present, all that stuff with my kids, I cut it way, way, way back because I want to be like, I want my brain to work well and I just want the sustainability of life, and it's poison, right? I still dabble in it. I had some drinks yesterday, woke up, not like I got drunk, but still I didn't feel that edge as normal, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so like going through this, for me to feel good, same thing. And I haven't seen a doctor, actually I did. So tons of exercise, a lot of exercise, cutting out alcohol, and then same thing, the diet. And it's been through literally the last like 10 years of like journaling this on like what makes me feel good and what makes me feel bad.
Right. Yeah. And you found it, right? You found what makes you feel good, and you keep doing that. That's just part of your lifestyle now.
Dude.
That's who you are. You have to do that, right? And you're not, and you look good and you like the working out. That's fun. But you said, I don't do it just for the physical appearance. It sounds like to me, it's more for the mental approach, right?
100%.
The mental impact.
Yep.
And the same thing for myself. Like, look, I like going to the gym, doing all that stuff. It's social, it's fun, throwing the weights around, doing all that stuff. But I know how good it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And that's, again,
addicted to that feeling.
We're chatting about that, right? Because we like it too. And there's a lot of guys that they're probably like, yeah, I'm not really the gym guy. Hey, no problem. There's still other things you can do getting active, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, just go out there and run. Like, that's the best thing you can do. They call it the runner's high, right? Just go out there and run. You can't run, well, go take a walk.
Yeah.
You can't do either. Find something to do.
Yeah, go hike, ride a bike, whatever.
Yeah, ride a bike, And that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Dylan, because I, along with others, have been there. Like, if there's guys sitting on the couch right now, want to go talk to somebody, make that first step.
For sure.
Because you have to move forward. You have to put that step forward. One step forward becomes two becomes four becomes 8, right? It's an exponential growth that you'll find yourself digging out of there. It may take a while.
But you have the tools now. You have the tools, and I took the same steps as you. Is I had to call and reach out to somebody and say like, hey, dude, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad, because I don't believe in quitting. Like I understand, like you talked earlier, you're saying like seasons of life, right? Like there are seasons. I was in a down season. I was facing a lot of winter. Yeah. And it was even like a couple of years ago, like I didn't go and see help after this happened back, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago, right? And I just been putting in a lot of work. Like I always have to have a challenge in front of me, like something to like push myself. I've had to cut back the drinking. I've had to exercise. And I got to a point, like one day, like I woke up and I'm like, I feel good, but why is life like so like hard? Is this like, is something wrong with me, or is this normal? So then I went to like a specialist. I got all my blood work done. Right. There's only a couple things off because I first thought like my testosterone levels were low. I'm like, hey, the stuff I did when I was younger screwed my natural test up. Like I just had bad test levels. My test levels were great. And this lady's like, Dylan, that's just what you got to do to feel good. That what you're feeling is normal. And once I understood that on, hey, I gotta do the hard shit to feel good. That's when I accepted it, and I've just been on the gas. And that's what my life looks like. But I now know, as you're talking about, the tools I need to do every single day to feel good.
Right. Yeah. And that's another point, Dylan, is going and seeing a doctor, getting your blood, your blood checked. Check those things, the hormonal stuff. It happens in men and women. I think that's something that's not discussed enough about now either, too, is in your 30s and 40s, hormonally, we're changing, right? You need to address that. People need to address that and make sure you're properly, fit in those areas to make sure you can function. Because there is some connections between, there is direct connections between testosterone and depression. Yep. And that's for us guys. Like, go get that checked. Or even for women, get your hormones checked. It's so important to get that done.
For sure.
Well, I'm not a doctor, not giving you doctor's advice, but that would be another place I'd start. Take a look at that. There's a lot of therapy out there now that's actually prescribed, and it's safe, it's medically proven, it's helpful. That's a great place to start as well. There's a lot of avenues, right? So it's really finding out what you need to do. Now, everybody's different.
Yeah. Like,
my story is different. Your story, you've got a little different, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a different story. It's not one size fits all.
Yeah, but it's, as Matt's talking about, us taking that first step, opening up to and admitting like something's wrong. Like I admitted straight up, like something's wrong. And like how I look at life is like we have this, like there's a certain amount of days, right? And they're getting shorter and shorter as time goes on. And my goal is, how do I have more good days than bad days? Yeah. And a bad day, a bad minute's too much. And being able to identify, like we've all had good days in our life. Like every single person listening, there's been a day in your life that's been good. Yeah. And how do you duplicate that and get obsessed with having good days, and how do you duplicate it and start writing down the formulas you're talking about on like what makes you feel that way, so you know, hey, like, and that's like self-discipline, like why I talk a lot about self-development, that especially in this space is huge, because you're going to learn, as Matt's talking about, the things that helped you. You're going to learn that, but you do have to hold yourself accountable to using the tools.
Right. And I love the fact, like you said, take inventory of it. I didn't really take inventory of it. Like, you know, I just knew there was an issue, but really like make note of, hey, this is where I feel like why, and then start figuring out, okay, what was kind of happening in my life?
Yeah.
Was it the alcohol at the time? Was it certain work pressure?
Yeah.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
there's certain, once you figure out, okay, what is driving this, then I can offset it. What's connecting to offset some of that? Because we're all
Right.
feeling pressure.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. There's
It's life.
something.
Like life is going to come at you. You know, what they say, you're either in a storm, you're about to go in a storm, or you're coming out of a storm, right?
It's just part of it. It's
just part
happening.
of it. It's gonna hit you. Like you
Yeah.
might be coming out and feeling good, but you know there's gonna be another wave or something that's coming. That's just life. That's gonna happen. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but being able to be prepared for that and how to cope and get through that.
Yeah.
I'm in a place where now I feel pretty darn good.
Good,
I'm 44, right? And
You look good, too.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. My mental space is good, but it's not always like this.
Yeah.
You know, I recall my last, light episode was just a few months ago. I was going
Yeah.
through a lot with work and just a lot of pressure and things were going on. And these were all like really good things, like
Yeah.
really good things.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't, it was so much going on. It was hard to just keep up with everything going on.
For sure.
You know? Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was in that spot literally a month ago. And like first time I talked to my wife about it, I'm like, we were laying there and I'm just like, dude, I'm not doing good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people would probably think I'm crazy, like listening right now. Cause like you look at my life and it's by design. Like I put all this work in to have these things and have this life.
Yeah.
But as you're talking about it, it's like, that's just how life is. You're going to have ups and downs no matter what level you're on and what you have. And so I told her I'm not feeling good, and she knows, like, she takes inventory for me.
Right.
Like, she doesn't tell me this, but she knows what makes me feel good. And I'm like, I'm struggling when I get home from work sometimes. I struggle to get into deep connection with my family and, like, be there and be present. And my mind sometimes will tick of all this crap going on. And I had to get to a point of, like, putting my phone away, not checking my emails, because it hit me, like, emotionally like that. And she's just like, why don't you just start working out before you come home?
Yeah.
Bingo. You know, I do it in the morning. Why not do it at night? And
Yeah.
you talk
feel
about,
great coming home, huh?
Yeah.
Your mind's ready to go.
For
Yeah,
sure.
you're feeling good. Those endorphins have kicked in.
Yep.
You know, my wife and I, we've chatted a bit about love language. I know we're all over the place here, but
No, it's
there's
good.
this
It's all the
topic,
same stuff.
Like about love language. For me, it's appreciation. So for me, like I need appreciation. So she knows if I'm in a spot where I'm not doing too good, look, she can help me out with a lot of things, but it's just really showing me appreciation, be there to support me, guide me, comfort me, that type of thing. Now everybody else says, but know your love language. You know, that's
Yeah.
another important for your spouse or your other partner is know like, hey, his love language or her love language is this. Let me help them through that. Right.
good.
So if you're on the other side of it and you're trying to help somebody that's battling this, well, what's their love language? Know that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not the love language guy. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, hey,
yeah.
look, to me, like appreciation matters a lot to me. So I know when I feel appreciated, it's like, boom, I rise up. I feel great.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah,
So that works
give
for
them
me.
that nice injection.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
Matt. Well, that's what I had today, dude. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, sharing the steps to get through it. I know it's going to impact many, many people. If there's, summing it up today, there's a lot of action items. So as you guys listening, like you might be running, you might be driving, different things like that. But if there's anything in here that like triggered you where you're like, I relate to exactly what they're saying right now, like go listen to it a couple times, understand you're not alone, understand this is just life, right? And there's good days and bad days, but there's a way to build more good days and bad days. And as Matt was talking about like earlier, like when you're in this dark place, you could, if you're open about it and you just take that first step and you stay, religious with taking step after step, you will get through it and you will see better days. I mean, Matt in his 40s, guy's fit, has a good family, and he's continuing even at his age, just saying, I want to get better. There's different ways to process things and mentally and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's been amazing. I appreciate you sharing all that information. Kind of wrapping this up, is there, like, if somebody could just say, hey, that's a lot of information, give me one takeaway, Matt. What would it be for somebody just to say, like, I'm going to go grab this thing by the horns and go after it?
Yeah, that's great. The one big takeaway, admit there's a problem, right? Admit there's the problem. That's the biggest step because now you know how or what you need to do to move forward.
Yeah.
Us guys, look, we're all these big macho guys. We don't want to admit there's a problem. We don't think this exists. We're too tough. We're too strong for this. We think this means weakness. No, it doesn't. You're strong if you admit you
That's
have this
true.
issue. You are stronger than most, right? Remember that. That is my biggest takeaway, Dylan. Everything else we can figure out. We can help you with that. People can help you with that. But until you're prepared to say, I think I have a problem, I want
Yeah.
to fix this, and I want to get better, you're going to struggle. That's the
love
one
it.
takeaway, man. I would love to leave your audiences with that.
That's a great
Yeah.
takeaway.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming.
Yeah, I love it. I love the Do Good movement. Love following along with your guys' story, and just happy to be here to share.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your serving hard, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right.
Cool.
Do good, guys.